Living Seed Media brings to you God's Word, which is His comprehensive equipment for changing lives. May the Lord impact your heart as you encounter His Word. For further inquiry or counsel, contact Peace House, P.O. Box 971, Boko, Benue State, Nigeria. Telephone numbers 0703 0363659, 0703 7681198. Email address lsmedia@livingseed.org, or visit our website at www.livingseed.org. Let us sit back and listen as the servant of God brings forth the word of life.
Nehemiah 5:1-11. 5-11. Then I said, Lord, the God of heaven, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant of love with those who love him and keep his commandments, let your ear be attentive and your eyes open to hear the prayer your servant is praying before you day and night for your servants, the people of Israel. I confess the sins we Israelites, including myself and my father's family, have committed against you. We have acted very wickedly towards you. We have not obeyed the commands, decrees, and laws you gave your servant Moses. Remember the instruction you gave your servant Moses, saying, if you are faithful, I will scatter you. If you are unfaithful, I will scatter you among the nations. But if you return to me and obey my commands, then even if your exiled people are at the farthest horizon, I will gather them from there and bring them to the place I have chosen as a dwelling for my name. They are your servants and your people, whom you redeemed by your great strength and your mighty hand. Lord, let your ear be attentive to the prayer of this your servant and to the prayer of your servants who delight in revering your name. Give your servant success today by granting him favor in the presence of this man. I was cupbearer to the king, providing bold leadership at a time like this. Lessons from Nehemiah. By way of definition of this theme topic, there are three critical words that we need to have a clear understanding of what we mean. These words are providing, bold, and leadership. The word providing here is to be understood in the sense of giving and preparing. Giving and preparing. And the word bold is to be understood in the sense of strong and courageous or unafraid. As we read in Joshua 1:6 following. And the word leadership is to be understood in the sense of guides, or people at the helm of affairs of the Nigerian church, from the lowest level to the highest level of the church, of the Nigerian church. Thus, by this topic, we are talking of giving as well as preparing bold leadership, courageous leadership at the helm of affairs of the church, at all levels of the church. We're not just talking about the top people up there. We're talking out of leadership from the lowest to the highest, from the top to the lowest, without which rebuilding the broken walls of the Nigerian church and nation will be an impossibility. If you only build the top leadership and forget the lower leadership right down to the level, to the bottom, we will be doing an impossibility, because the top can be built, and if the lower level are not built, we've not done anything. So when we are talking of providing bold leadership, we are talking of from the top right down to the bottom. Indeed, given the numerous problems and enemies of progress in our hands, as we have seen in this report, it is good and desirable to have a bold leadership in church and out of church at a time like this, from top to bottom. Without which we will all be consumed by the numerous problems we have in church and out of church in this country. The report we set out 2 years ago has given us a naked and vulnerable state of the Nigerian church, as we have just seen. This report has made it clear that we must go beyond spending our energy in setting bold people in leadership positions at all levels of the church, because it is not enough to have bold leadership at every level of the church. As with Nehemiah, we must have a bold leadership, quite okay. But we must have a bold leadership that has a burning and a passionate and a clear and achievable vision of rebuilding the broken walls of the Nigerian church, that this report has given us a picture of. It's not the church is going to be destroyed. The church is already destroyed, both outside and inside. We are more guilty of destroying the church, the Nigerian church, than Muslims. I think this report is clear about that we have a hand, we leaders have a hand in destroying the church far more than Muslims have done to the church. This report has testified that. And if we do not come to terms with that, then something is wrong. Then we are going to destroy the church, or we have destroyed the church already. What Muslims are doing now, what the leadership in the country is doing now, is as a result of our destroying the church. They have the guts to do it because they already know we are dead already. We are destroyed already. Ganima ne suna ci yanzu, to use a Hausa language. What they are doing is they are only getting the booty of what we have done to ourselves. Based on this report, and the earlier we come to grips with that truth, the better for us to rebuild the broken walls of the Nigerian church, which already we started several years ago in this place, and we are still trying to rebuild. We are still doing it, and the earlier we accept that, the better. And so we must have a vision. And the vision is rebuilding the broken Nigerian church. Just as Nehemiah envisioned rebuilding the Jerusalem walls. And not only a vision, alongside boldness to build the walls. But as with Nehemiah, such a leadership at all levels must also have a workable mission, a workable task put in place to achieve that vision, which already we are doing, and that's a good thing about what we are doing right now. And alongside boldness, alongside vision, alongside the task put in place to achieve this vision of rebuilding the broken Nigerian church, is strategy. Alongside boldness, alongside vision, alongside tasks to be done, we must also have a strategy put in place so as to help overcome the foreseeable and the unforeseeable problems that may stand on our way to achieving the vision in the long run. And the good thing is that we are doing it. And we need to be aware of that as well. We are already doing it here. And that's why those of us from the apex leadership of the church must accept what we are doing here in Peace House. As in the case of Nehemiah, this is not an impossible or an unachievable vision. As you will hear many church members say, church in Yaruba, it is rotten, it is unrepairable. That is heresy. It's not biblical. It's not biblical. It is achievable. Although we have sinned, although we have gone so bad in the church, especially those of us that are church, we can achieve, we can be healed, we can be revived. And that's why we are all here. And it is great that we are here to consider the state of the church. And the response that has been coming is very encouraging. From the contributions you have made is very encouraging. That gives hope. So we don't have to humiliate ourselves to the extent that we are crippled to no action. As in the case of Nehemiah, it is not an impossible task, but a possibility. This is God's project, with whom there is no impossibility. Taking our lesson from Nehemiah, by providing a bold leadership of this nature, with a clear vision, a clear tasks to be done, and a clear strategy at a time like this, we can be sure we will achieve the vision. We will achieve the rebuilding of the broken Nigerian church and Nigerian nation. Three things we should take to heart. Who to give? Who to prepare such bold leadership? Nehemiah chapter 1 verses 1 to chapter 2 verse 10 talks about that. Makes that very clear. Who to give such bold leadership? Who to prepare such bold leadership? Nehemiah 2:11 to chapter 10 verse 39. How are we to prepare such bold leadership at a time like this? If you are looking at the script in your hands, you will not be following me. I beg your pardon, just listen to me, because I'm jumping up and here and there. You will get me much easier. You'll be frustrated because I will be jumping up and down. So first of all, number one, who to give and to prepare such a bold leadership. Nehemiah 1, 2 to 10. Nehemiah 2:11 to 39. How are we to prepare such bold leadership at a time like this in Nigeria? 3. Nehemiah 11 to 13. What is the end result of providing such bold leadership? Let's pick the first one. Who to give? Who to prepare such bold leadership? Note that Nehemiah was a bold leader despite his status, despite his origin, despite his environment, in providing a bold leadership at a time like this. We should note that Nehemiah though serving in exile as an ordinary cup-bearer at the palace of the Persian emperor, had a burden for the remnant in Jerusalem, had a burden for the broken walls of Jerusalem. Though a cupbearer, a slave, an exiled person in a foreign land, he did not belong to the leadership of the Israelites, but he had a burden. He had a burden for the remnant in Jerusalem, had a burden for the broken walls of Jerusalem, and was desirous of doing something about it. As was the case with Nehemiah, Moses, Deborah, Joseph, David, Daniel, for example, we observe that God does not raise bold leadership outside. God does raise bold leadership outside the top constituted leadership, as well as within the constituted leadership of God's people. Like Joshua, he belonged to the constituted leadership because he was second in command to Moses. Solomon belonged to the constituted leadership because he was a prince. He was an heir to the throne. Amos, of course, was not one of the prophets. He came out of the blue. That's why they chased him out. I said, go back, you don't belong here. Brothers and sisters, I hear people say, why come to Boko? Why come to Boko? Who is leading Boko? He doesn't belong to the constituted church leadership. He's not ordained. He didn't go through the line of training you and I went through. So why go to him? What has he to offer? And these are theologians. These are church leaders who have read the Bible. And they forget that God does raise leaders from within the constituted leadership and outside the constituted leadership. All God needs is boldness, vision, mission, or task to accomplish the vision and the values that matter. God can raise from nowhere. That was why in 1972 the church fell, the revival. Because they thought these women that have not gone to Bible school, that have not done anything, they are not within the leadership of the church. Why should we listen to them? God, if this Holy Spirit is true, why did he not fill us pastors? Why did he not fill us elders? And so they threw it away as an act of the devil, forgetting that God can go outside the box to raise leaders if the church has failed as we have failed. Brothers and sisters, if we must belong, if we believe that this is the end time, then we must not box God how he raises people to do his work. After all, Jesus says, if you do not do it right, God is ready to cut you down and raise leaders from stones. Isn't that what the Word of God says? If you reverend ministers are not ready to take seriously the work of God, he's going to do without you and raise stones to do his work. Because he cannot be boxed. He cannot be boxed. That's what Nehemiah is telling us. That's what Nehemiah is telling us. Indeed, it will take one bold man of God or woman of God in collaboration with the present leadership of the Church of God that dare to be bold, to build a just and holy system within our theological institutions that will raise a bold leadership across the length and breadth of this country, that will bring the needed change in church and out of church. Sure, God needs only one man or one woman like Governor Nehemiah of Israel of old, with a clear and achievable vision, with a clear mission and strategy to build the Nigerian church in particular and the Nigerian society at large to the benefit of all Nigerians. Like Nehemiah, Deborah, Esther. People who are transparent, people who are unconcerned about their comfort zone to bring the needed change in our Nigerian churches and Nigerian nation. Nehemiah was in a comfort zone. He knew that he responded to the issue. He knew what was there in that land in Jerusalem. He knew the problem that he was going to encounter. And yet he chose to leave his comfort zone to go back home and redeem the situation. Esther was in a comfort zone. And that's why her uncle told her, well, if you don't, fine, God will raise some other persons. And she left that comfort zone and risked her life. All of us seated here are ministers of the gospel, one way or the other. We like comfort zones. We like comfort zones so much. Much of the struggling for leadership is because we want comfort zones. Isn't it? It's because we want comfort zone. The competition for leadership is because we want comfort zone. The competition to go further studies is not because we want to know more of God's word. It's because we want to increase our salary level and our chances for promotion. And yet we go about talking, we are working for God, we are working for God. Does God need people to work for him? Is God hungry to use people to work for him? Yes, he uses people. Is it not a privilege to be working under God? Why are you preaching so much about you are working for God? Are you really working for God? If you looked at it critically, you're not working for God. You're working for yourself. That's why you're mindful of promotion. That's why you're mindful of your salary level. That's why you're competing with each other for positions. So you're working for yourself. So until we come to terms that even us, even our comfort zone is now threatened. Even your comfort zone, you are now threatened. Whether you're a bishop, whether you're a president, whether you're a general secretary, whatever, or a chairman of an RCC, those places have been wrecked. You're just sitting on fire. There's no comfort for you. Sooner or later, you will be dislodged. So unless we rise up with what is happening in and all agree with what we are doing and take it to task, there's no comfort zone. Even the kidnappers in your place, with the kidnappers in your place, you know you don't have a comfort zone. With the terrorists in your place, you know you don't have a comfort zone. With the Fulani herdsmen ransacking here, you know you don't have a comfort zone. The only comfort zone is to follow Nehemiah and risk that comfort zone. So we must all agree And if we agree, how are we to prepare such bold leadership at a time like this? How are we to prepare such bold leadership at a time like this? Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Okay. The question is, how are we to prepare a bold leadership across the breadth and length of this country? It does not simply just come. It does not simply just come. As good as prayer and fasting is, a good leadership don't just come. We must look at the example Nehemiah preparing such
This one is working on something. It's not as loud. It's not as loud. Preparing such bold leadership does not just come. It does not even just come with prayer and fasting. Prayer is good. Fasting is good. To have bold leadership is good. But after prayer, what next? Yes, I think one of our problems is not prayer. Prayer, we have been doing it. Fasting, we have been doing it. In some churches, they do it every month. Individuals do it many times. Our prayer, our problem is the how to do things and to do it concretely after the prayer. If you look at the prayers in the New Testament, after they prayed, something happened. After they fast, something happened. Something moved. In our prayer and fasting, whether we do it for a week or we do it for days, at the end of the day, nothing seems not to happen. Except we say we believe. We take it by faith. But if you take it by faith, we must see it visibly in the way you live your life. That prayer and fasting must be answered by the change of lifestyle, by the dedication you give. But in most cases, we don't see it after the fasting and prayer. For the New Testament believers, it wasn't like that. Why must our own be different after prayer and fasting? So prayer and fasting is good. But after that prayer and fasting, an action must be taken. Concrete action must be taken to follow the prayer. And then, as Billy said yesterday, God will honor the action. God will honor the action. Our conduct must show. Our lifestyle must show. Like Nehemiah, it takes our sharing of this vision with the present leadership of the Nigerian church at all levels for the need to provide a bold leadership across the breadth and length of Nigeria, as we are doing here. As we started several years back to this point. It takes sharing, as we are doing. Sharing with the need to provide a secure and conducive learning environment for the preparation of a bold leadership in our seminaries, in our Bible schools, in our Sunday schools, in our Christian homes. Our church leaders, our constituted church leaders already know the dilapidated infrastructures, the dilapidated curriculums and teachers in our seminaries, in our Bible schools, in our Sunday schools, and the homes that make raising bold leadership difficult. Our church leaders are not comfortable with the caliber of graduates and children coming out of our seminaries, Bible schools, Sunday schools, and homes, etc., at a time like this. They also know that our method of enlisting who goes into these seminaries and schools to become leaders is faulty, because not all are being called for ministry. They already know of the corrupt system they are battling with in the church, despite their efforts, and they know it has to change, or they collapse with it and the rest of us. They know they have to rise up to the challenge in the power of God who called them to respond to the situation as Nehemiah responded to those who stood on the way to both spiritual and economic change, saying, Nehemiah said, I responded, I pondered them in my mind, and then accused the nobles and the officials. I told them, you are charging your own people interests. So I called together a large meeting to deal with them and said, as far as possible, we have bought back our fellow Jews who were sold to the Gentiles. Now you are selling your own people only for them to be sold back to us. They kept quiet because they could find nothing to say. So I continued. What you are doing is not right. Shouldn't you walk in the fear of our God to avoid the reproach of our Gentile enemies? I and my brothers and my men are also lending the people money and grain. But let us stop charging them interests. Give back to them immediately their fields There are vineyards, olive groves, and houses. And also the interest you are charging them, 1% of the money, grain, new wine, and olive oil. This is a bold man who not only talk, he lived his talk. He was a governor, entitled for many rights. He has many rights, but he forsook the rights. And he told his relations, forsake your rights for the sake of the people. They are in abject poverty. Here we are as ministers of God. The story from this report and what Speak was saying, the experience he went through with the burial of his mother-in-law and his mother. Exploitation in the church. Exploitation of the people. Aba Lura the pastor. Aba Lura the pastor. People don't care about the pastor. Does the shepherd talk like that? Most of you have been shepherds. The shepherd cares for the sheep, not for him, the shepherd. But today in our churches, we care about our welfare, and we talk of our rights, and we die for our rights, and some of us even leave the church for our rights, and some of us even fight for our rights. Here the governor says, the rest of you, you are exploiting the people. Give them back their land that you have taken, because they have nothing to eat and they have to mortgage their land, and you exploit them. Learn from me. I have forsaken my rights as a governor, and I even give out. Well, what kind of a bold leader do you need? How do you prepare it? You prepare them on the ground, setting good example. At a time like this, it is time for concrete and positive action, not fighting over positions and money, which we have turned to be our values. We've forsaken the real values that we are supposed to imbibe as men and women of God. And money has become our values. Positions of authority has become our values. For Nehemiah, it wasn't the case. He had left his comfort zone in a foreign land. There was no way he would be fighting for his rights in a place that was already devastated. In a place he was called to be the leader. We have taken years praying in this place, on this ground, years mourning and talking over our deplorable state, the deplorable state of the Nigerian church and the Nigerian nation, which is getting worse and worse by the day, rather than improving. And therefore we must look inward and upward, and not to our tormentors, our so-called tormentors. We must look inward and upward. To put our house in order. And to our surprise, not only our people will be healed if we look inward and upward to God. Not only the church will be healed, but the land and the generality of Nigerians will be healed. The broken wall of the Nigerian church will be built, will be completed, and the broken wall of the Nigerian nation will be healed and will be built, as God promised in 2 Chronicles 7:14. Thus, the end result, brothers and sisters, holy men of God, providing such a bold leadership at a time like this is great and joyful and joyous. Nehemiah 11-13 is about the celebration of the completion of the broken wall. It's about the reformation, the economic, political reformation in the land, and the celebration that went on. But they had work. Nehemiah had prepared leadership from top to bottom. And that leadership, they had followed with him because he had shared the vision with them. They have bought the vision, and they were working with him to achieve the vision. Many of us leaders think that we can turn the church we lead just like that because we have power and authority. You have been in the church for long to know that as a leader of the church, whether it is a district, whether it is an RCC, whether it is a provincial church, whether it is a diocese, you have been in the church for long to know that no matter how bold, visionary you are, you cannot turn the church around alone. You need the train of leadership from top to bottom. And you need to prepare them well to succeed. I'm talking from experience. Because I was once there. I was once there. You need to take your people along with you. You need to trust your people. You need to trust the train of leadership you have. Even the church groups, the youth group, the women group, the choir, the Zumuntamaza, you need to take into consideration all the train of leadership in the church. If you are going to succeed, if you neglect any of the train of leadership from top to bottom, no matter how bold you are, no matter how visionary you are, you will not get there. I said I'm talking for an experience because I've been there. Many of us brag about our power as leader of the church. You want to talk and everybody say, yes sir, my Lord. Be careful. When you see people are obeying you too much, know that you are on the danger line. Know that you are going astray. When everybody is agreeing with you, whatever you say, be careful. Be careful. This is an obedient minister. This is an obedient child of God. This is this. And you listen to them. And other people who are telling you the truth, you refuse to listen to them. You say they are tough-headed. They are proud and arrogant. And you put them aside. Be careful. You must use all the tough-headed and the soft-headed and the obedient and the seemingly disobedient. Because you didn't bring them to the church, did you? You only ordained them. But they brought themselves. God brought them. Who are you to just throw them overboard? God brought them to walk with you. And you must be humble. You must have the right values to work with all caliber of ministers you are working with. Because some of them, those tough-headed ones, are the ones helping you. They are the ones helping you to humble you, to know you are still a human being, and tomorrow you will retire. They are the ones helping you so that you can retire honorably, so that you will not boast as if you are Alpha and Omega. So listen to them. You will get an iota of truth that will help you to succeed. They are leadership you did not bring. You may have ordained them. You may have sent them to seminaries, but they've still brought themselves. So walk with them. You will learn. I have been telling people about my son-in-law. I mean my grandson, who is just 3.5 years. And every time he asks me a question and I give him the answer, he said, but why? And then I give him the answer to the why. And then he said, but why? And I give him the answer to that second why. And he still says, but why? And I start pondering. I said, what is this young small boy trying to tell me? What should I learn from this? And what I learned from it is that if you claim you know, you better know it from A to Z. Or else you will be shocked. You will send a child to hell. Or you will discourage a child. If you claim you know, and it is in the Bible. 1 Corinthians 8:1. He who thinks he knows does not know as he ought to know. Brothers and sisters, the result is enormous if we know who we are. If we know our God and we possess the values that matter in this work and live the values that matter in this work, and we prepare and we give the bold leadership and prepare bold leadership, the result is great and you will retire happily. What was it for Nehemiah? The walls were built despite the enemies that stood very firm to ensure that the wall is not built. The tough-headed, selfish, rich people and the nobles who were Israelites, who were oppressing their people, he stood and put them down. And they had to repent and follow suit. He made sure that no one stood on the way. He put everyone in his box to follow him to achieve the vision, to follow the values that matter to achieve the vision. He made sure they followed the task that they have outlaid to complete the building of the walls and to reshuffle the economic and the social structure of Jerusalem. And he achieved it. But he achieved it not like that, not by prayer alone, but by action and by lifestyle. In my place, if you think you have power and you brag about your power, our people will say, and so what? She sarkine, and so what? She may arzikine, and so what? He is a bishop, and so what? A gidan shi na kwana ne. Shi yana ciyar da ni. Is he the one feeding me? What is his bishop to me? If his bishop cannot help me, if his reverend position cannot help me, what is it to me? And that is what is happening in our churches. People are trampling on the foot of reverence, are disobeying reverence. Not because they don't want to disobey, but because they are fulfilling what Matthew 5:13 says. If the saltiness is missing, what use is it? To be thrown away and trampled. They are not. This church is not respecting reverend. This church is not respecting reverend. This is not church. Will they just respect you like that? You are not doing anything to earn that respect, and you want them to respect you for what? Because you have collar. What is the collar doing to me? And that's why this report must help us to address ourselves, or else we will run out of job. And already the handwriting is in the wall. We don't want to change, but change is possible because we have been called by God. You and I, all of you have been called by God. You must listen to the caller so that he can salvage the situation, and the country will be good for it. The result was good. Nehemiah celebrated. The people celebrated because the walls were completed. The economic situation was addressed. The infrastructure was addressed. The social menace that was going on was addressed. The spiritual was addressed. Part of it jumped into Ezra because the Reformation touched every aspect of life. You are the ones that have been set to do that. As Nehemiah, he did it and he achieved it. You and you and you can also do it and achieve it, but you must follow the guiding principles. God bless you.